I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, just got back from a semi-annual luncheon that I have with some of my colleagues, some of my referral network realtors, and some members on my team. We get together a couple of times a year, and of course the hot topic today, all we could talk about, was the City of Vancouver's recent announcement here that they're going to rezone the entire city for multiplexes. So this is going to be stratified condos, 4 units all the way up to 8 units as rental, but I think up to as many as 6 units stratified, depending on the size of your lot, which I'm going to break down. So like everything with the City of Vancouver, it's a little early yet. I spent about 4 hours this past weekend doing some research on this, trying to get a little more clarity on what exactly you can build, what the requirements are. I made 4 phone calls, talked to 4 different builders. I've got a pretty deep Rolodex of builders, mostly Indo-Canadian builders. They're the ones that are building most of the stuff in Vancouver now. Wanted to talk to them about some of the cost to build a fourplex of, let's say, 4,000 square feet with 4 kitchens and 8 bathrooms and 4 laundry rooms. And as expected, it's wishy-washy because they've never built anything like this before, or let alone a 6-plex with 6 kitchens and 12 bathrooms or 10 bathrooms and parking and everything else. But the bottom line is it's not going to be cheap. Remember, to build one of these is going to be far more expensive than a single family home, for what I just said. Instead of 1 kitchen or maybe 2 with a suite downstairs, you're now going to have 4 kitchens, 8, 9, 10 bathrooms, 4 individual laundry rooms, etc. 4 electrical panels. It's a lot more cost to build one of these. So I'm going to get to in a minute. I've kind of give you some rough ballpark ideas on what it's going to cost to build, what it's going to cost to buy a typical lot in let's say in East Vancouver or the West Side, and build one of these. And it's not going to be cheap. So first things first, you guys know I'm a pro real estate optimistic guy, and I want to see more homes getting built, because after all, that's what I'm in the business here of. I'm a marketer. I list and sell homes, and we need more product. And I'm under the belief too that even if it's not really what anyone would call affordable, which I don't think these are going to be, we're talking 1.4 million plus GST probably for some of these units, a little less for some of the smaller ones, but I don't know if that's going to really be classified as putting housing in for the missing middle. I don't think most people would call a $1.3 million 2-bed, 2-bath the missing middle. That's going to be still a pretty expensive home here. But, I'm optimistic. I think it's better to build, even if it's going to be luxury condos or, condos priced in the 1.2 to 1.4, better than nothing, because at least there will be some move-up sellers and buyers there. A guy, for instance, that's in maybe a 1-bed, 1-bath in Yaletown that's worth $750 can move into one of these 2-bed, 2-bath for 1.3 fourplexes, and it would free up one of his 1-bedroom for sale to a first-time buyer. So that is, in one way, it will help. But I think overall, I was tweeting out some stuff. I think at first blush, it's a little bit too little, too late. I think something like this would have been incredible 15 years ago. 15 years ago, it would have changed the entire landscape of Vancouver. They would have been all over these, like building a multiplex like a fat kid on a Smartie, as one guy put it. They would have been all over this. But the demographics have shifted so much. I've done so many blogs over the years on the typical buyer now for an East Side Vancouver special or a West Side starter home. 10 years ago, I think this would have made a huge difference as well, because 10 years ago, you could have bought a detached home on the East Side on a 33 by 122 for $700,000, $650 or even less if you wanted to be on a busier street. Now that's all changed. That's gone from $750, $800 to now you're looking at close to $2 million now for an old Vancouver special on a 33 by 122. So I think it's a little bit too little, too late. The cost to secure this land now is so much more expensive. Add to the fact, just since COVID, the cost to build these homes has skyrocketed. The wood, the glass, the roofing materials, the appliances, the countertops have all skyrocketed here. The cost of labor has skyrocketed here just in the last 3 or 4 years. So, as I'm going to get to in a minute, we could easily be talking for a fourplex in East Vancouver, which I believe, and that's another thing, I had to get the, what can I build on a standard lot? It's, again, very vague and all over the road. From what I understand, if you're on a typical lot, 33 by 122, your FSR now is going to go from 0.07 to 1.0. So in other words, on a 33 by 122, 4,000 square foot lot, you'll be able to build a 4,000 square foot home. So for keep it simple here, that would be 4 1,000 square foot units. But the cost to build that type of home is probably, I got a whole bunch of different opinions from builders that I talked to. And again, it's just too new. We don't know the cost to input costs on these, but depending on the finishings that you want to use, I would think you're probably going to use pretty nice finishings on these type of homes when you're paying $2 million, 2.2 for the lot. But we're probably talking all in $4.5 million, we could be talking $5 million to build one of these fourplexes. Maybe 4 or 5, maybe someone can chime in, maybe you can do it a little bit less at $4 million. But most of the builders I've talked to, you're paying $2 million for the lot. All the holding costs, which I'm going to go to in a minute, these aren't going to be cheap. But I want to be a believer. But I think 10 years ago, it still probably would have worked. Today, the big thing is that it's just a different demographic of buyers. I've been telling you guys about some of the homes I've recently sold in the last couple years, both on the east side and on the west side, and how the buyers now aren't even interested in keeping the one-bedroom mortgage helper downstairs. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, a lot of these buyers, especially on the east side, were blue-collar workers. Some of these guys were baggage handlers at the airport that would buy these old houses, fix them up, put a suite. That mortgage helper, they needed it. Now the buyers, even on the east side, are multi-millionaires. Do they really want a guy living in the basement for $1,800 a month? Do they need that $1,800 a month to make the numbers work? They don't anymore. Instead, they're going to take over the whole house. It's not that big of a house anyways. These Vancouver specials are only 2,400 square feet, 2,500 square feet as is. They've got 3 kids. They're going to use it as a games room or a family room or an extra bedroom. So that's the other thing we've got going against us here. The demographics for people buying single-family homes are night and day to what they were even just 10 years ago, but 15 or 20 years ago, it's totally different now. I've told you guys, several of the last homes I've sold, including my last 2 on the west side, I was the listing realtor, the buyers on those homes were going to remove those suites. They were going to put a staircase back downstairs, open it back up, and take over the whole house. They weren't interested in a mortgage helper for $2,000 a month. It wasn't required for them. They just paid $3.5 million for the house. So I tried to reverse engineer a bit of this stuff, and again, we're going to have to wait. It's going to be many, many years before we see anybody building one of these. And is it going to really, fill that missing middle? I don't think so. So let's just have a look. East Vancouver, from what I understand here, you can build between 4 and 6 stratified homes, depending on the lot size. Apparently with a 33 by 122, you're going to get a 1.0 FSR, which is about 30% more than what you were getting. It was a 0.07. And so in other words, you could build about a 4,000 square foot home. Now, on larger lots, you can go bigger. You can go 5, 6 units, depending on the size of the lot. But it goes small, it goes medium and large lots. But it doesn't spell out what exactly the measurements are on those. And apparently with some larger lots, you can go up to 8 rental units. Now, if you want to know about that, I don't want to get too far off track. I just did a blog 6 weeks ago entitled Landlords, the NDP Needs Your Help. And I talked about this exact rental situation happening in Toronto, where the new mayor there, the new NDP mayor, was allowing 4plexes, 5plexes, rental homes on all standard lots, and how wonderful it was going to be. The homeowner could live in one of the units and rent the other 3 or 4 out. And I said it's not going to be a very popular build. The numbers just don't add up. Just like what I said, these are multimillionaires. Why would they want to live in a too small 2-bed and then rent the other 3 out? The cost for these is going to be $4 million. And most people that have that kind of money, there's a reason they have $4 or $5 million. They're pretty smart. And why on earth would they be building small apartment buildings to get into bed with a government like the NDP and all their trickery and their war on landlords? If you want to become an investor, buy a simple 1-bed for $650,000, $700K. The cap rates have gone through the roof now. You can rent that unit for $3,000 a month. And it's a simple hold, and you're designating or putting at risk $725,000 of your equity, of your capital. Putting $3.54 million into something like that is risky, especially with a government like the NDP. Next thing you know, they put another rent freeze on, or they put rent control on. Who knows the restrictions? And now you're stuck with a home that you try and sell, it's not liquid. Selling a 1-bedroom condo, I can sell that in 2 weeks for you. Selling a small apartment building with 5 kitchens and 8, 9 bathrooms, that's going to be a tougher sell. So watch my other blog on that. I don't think as a rental, even building here in Vancouver on certain size lots, 8 units, be careful with that. The numbers don't add up, and do you really want to build a small apartment building and go into bed or into business with the NDP? I don't think so. There are better investments out there if you want to invest in real estate. But I reversed engineered this a little bit. Current cost for a 33 by 122, because I'm getting ready to list a couple. I've got a nice one out in Renfrew that I'm going to be listing here later this winter. I'm going to be listing it right around $2 million. 33 by 122. So you're looking at $2 million to buy the home. It's a 52-year-old Vancouver special, pretty tired home. So buy that home is going to be about $2 million plus PTT. So you're probably looking at now close to 2.1. To tear down the home, get your permits, get your architectural designs, asbestos abatements, and all that other good stuff. At least another $100,000 for that. Now you're looking at 18 months build time from start to finish. You're going to have your financing costs, your holding costs, and then the cost to build the house. And that's where it's all up in the air right now. Love it if some builders, I know I've got some, could comment on price per square foot to build a 4,000 square foot home with 4 kitchens, 8 bathrooms, 4 laundry rooms, 4 panels, 4 hot water tanks, all that other good stuff. And now, of course, you're forming a small strata. That opens up a whole other can of worms there. Do you self-manage these 4 units or 5 units or 6 units? Do you hire a property manager? There's all kinds of stuff. Parking, how does the parking work? So, and how does the breakdown of units work too? So I don't think they're going to build, I would doubt if they would just section it in 4 and build 4 2-bed, 2-bath units of 1,000 square feet. I think probably what they would have to do, the ratio would be something different. We'll have to find out. Maybe 2 3-bed, 2.5 baths, and then those units get covered parking in the back, and then maybe 2 1-bed or 1 and den, 1-bath units, or maybe a smaller 2-bed, 2-bath, and a bachelor suite. There'll be a ratio. Well, it'll be really interesting to see how they section these off and what the product makeup is. But to keep it simple, a 2-bed, 2-bath, we're talking 1,000 square feet. Let's get back to it here. So the cost to build the land, I think you're probably looking at another $2 million to build a house like this, plus your holding costs. So now you're into it for 4. Of course, on all the units, so you've got the 4 units for sale. There's going to be GST on those. And then for me, if you hired me to sell those 4 units, you're looking at well in excess of $125,000 in commission for me to sell those. So, we're now, what are we looking at here? We're selling these now, listing these at 1.3 plus GST, 1,250,000 plus GST. This is going to be wood frame in East Vancouver. At 1.2, 1.3, I can get you a pretty nice concrete strata downtown, young, relatively young, with parking in the West End or Yaletown, maybe with some nice views. underground parking, and all that good stuff. So I want to be a believer. It's way too early to see where this goes. Let's see. Again, I think building something is better than building nothing, but I don't know if this is going to hit that missing middle that they're talking about. At least not the larger units won't. And then, of course, you've got all the other issues here, infrastructure, street parking. How would you like to have a single-family home you just built, and then you've got a 4 or 5-plex going up on either side of you? That'll be fun. The rental one, I won't get in any more on that. I already talked about it a month and a half ago, but the rental one will be funny too. I don't know if we're going to get anyone going into bed with the NDP and building a 6, 7, 8 unit rental building. And I understand, and you'll have to have a couple of those units below market rent. So that'll really be fun. That'll be a good mix. Full market rental, and then you got a few that are below market rental mixed in. But management on these, parking, infrastructure, schools, sewage, all things that would have to be addressed. Do you hire a property manager to run this? I mean, if you've got 6 units, you can sell 4 to 6 units. You could do a self-manage it, but that's a lot of work. These small stratas can be tough. There's strength in numbers with large stratas that have got 100, 200 units. So there's strength in number. A lot easier to get a consensus to move things forward for repairs and maintenance. When you've got 4 units, you need 3 of the 4 owners to agree on it. And if you're self-managed, it can start to get tricky. Insurance on these things is going to be interesting as well. So lots of things to address. I'll keep you guys posted. If you guys, anyone that wants to comment here on the cost to build one of these 4-plexes or 5-plexes, give me your number per square foot. I'm hearing at least $375, $400, $425, depending on your per square foot, depending on your finishings. I would think the finishings better be pretty good in this price category. We'll see how it goes. There's another grant here. There's one last thing off topic here. I see that the federal government, the Liberals now, they're going to be throwing out every incentive in the book here before we get an election here, are offering a $40,000 grant to homeowners to put in a secondary suite. I don't know how, again, I've talked about the demographics. Some might be interested in this, but it's 10 years too late. Most of these buyers on the west side especially are multi-millionaires. On the east side, they're just multi-millionaires. Are they interested in really adding a suite? Some will, absolutely, but it's about 10 years too late. The popularity of that is decreasing every single year. I'm seeing it in my business. Final thing, just the last thing, creeping socialism, we'll call this one. Just so you guys know, the City of Vancouver now is going to penalize you if you want to build a single family home. Like, the nerve of you to build a single family home of 23 or 2,400 square feet and only you and your 3 kids occupy it. Like, it's outrageous. If you want to build a single family home now, they are going to shrink the FSR that you're allowed on that. You used to be allowed 0.7 FSR, or what they call it. It's always been FSR, floor space ratio. Now they call it FAR, floor area ratio. Why they had to change it, I have no idea. It's been FSR for 50 years. But they're going to go from a 0.7 to a 0.6. So they are going to reduce the size of your single family home by 14% if you want to build something like that. So you see, this is socialism. We're going to encourage you to build a small apartment building. And if you want to build a single family home in the east side or west side, we're going to penalize you for that. We want you at least to put in some sort of a rental suite downstairs. Or a laneway, I might qualify for that as well and rent it out. So it'll be interesting to see. That's really, I think, in my opinion, is nuts. They shouldn't have touched that. If someone wants to build a single family home, we need more density. We need, bigger homes on these lots as it is. And to penalize someone who doesn't want to put in a suite or build one of these multiplexes, I think it's crazy, but it's the times we're living in. I will give you guys further updates as we move on this. It's way too early. Again, I don't even know what the cost to build one of these is going to be. It's going to be several years before we see it. Is it going to, satisfy that missing middle? Maybe one of the units, they might build a small one-bedroom garden suite in these multiplexes, but I think the rest of them are going to be pretty expensive, upwards of $1,250, $1,300 a square foot, because that's what wood frame condo are currently selling in areas like Renfrew and Mount Pleasant as well. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.